To fear is
In war, there is no substitute for victory.
Let us never negotiate out of fear.
We stand undivided, forever united, fighting hand in hand for the liberty we burn, for glory and honor, for our sons and daughters, ever mindful of the lessons we've learned. Let the torch of freedom burn.
You found your way to the intersection of faith and politics. WallBuilders Live with David Barton, Tim Barton, and Rick Green. It is Good News Friday. I love Fridays, guys. I'm always looking for that positive news, even though we're obviously realistic about the negative stuff that's out there, too. But it's nice to know when there's some good things happening. And you guys got stacks of good news, so where do you want to start?
Well, I'm going to start with a couple of news stories right off the bat before we go to good news. Just going to point out a couple of things going on in the country I think are interesting. One is, of the three branches of government, which branch enjoys the greatest trust of the people? Of the three, what would you pick?
Currently?
Currently.
So that's like 8% to 15% to 30%.
What would you say is 8%?
Oh, my goodness. Well, Congress, I think, is the lowest.
Congress is somewhere between 9 and 14%. That's right.
Okay, Congress is the lowest. I know President Obama is 30s
no,
or 40.
No, not President Obama, but just the
executive
presidency.
branch. Okay, the executive branch. Gosh, generally you think they're higher. Almost by default, I would go judges just because I don't want to support the presidential branch right now. So I don't know.
Rick?
Man, I'm with Tim. I'm drawing a blank because Congress, I guess, traditionally stays the lowest, but maybe the courts are lower now.
No,
I don't know. I'm gonna have to. I'm just gonna have to say I don't know.
The courts are the highest.
The highest.
They only have 33% support.
And that's the highest.
That's the highest, bro.
Wow.
That is 67% of Americans think that judges do not follow the law or the Constitution in their rulings. Now, see, that tells you how smart people are.
Because that really is surprising. Good surprising. Because
there is no media covering the unorthodoxy and the lack of precedent for so many judicial decisions. There's no coverage of that. And yet the people are smart enough to say, you know what, that decision does not reflect the law. It does not reflect the Constitution. And so only 33% of Americans look at judiciary and say they're doing what they're supposed to be doing, which is that I think that's good news.
Absolutely.
That's a good educated public.
I agree with you too, and it probably bodes well for opportunity to educate the people on how to get the court back into a good place. What are the changes we need to make with the system itself so that the court's doing what it's supposed to do? It doesn't have to be so unpopular.
Well, one of the things I've always said in politics, when I deal with political guys running for office and they're trying to challenge an incumbent, you cannot beat an incumbent unless you can show people a reason to fire him and hire you. Just because you think you ought to be hired is not going to win your election against an incumbent. You have to show people why the incumbent needs to be fired. And the fact that you have a 67% dissatisfaction with judiciary means that they're ripe for a change. They're ripe for putting in something new that does work, like a constitution.
And this is something that, guys, we've talked about so many times, but we need to remember as the American people to be encouraged. This is why we get involved, because the majority of those positions have been appointed and they were not elected. And so if we are not electing the right kind of people, we're going to continue to have those wrong judges. So the fact that we recognize now that those judges are not the kind we want gives even more weight to the reason we have to get involved in this midterm election. Then we have to get involved in the next presidential election, because if we don't continue to elect the right people, this is not a problem that will be resolved in the next election or two. It'll take the next 20 or 30 years while those judges retire to then have the right people that have been elected that can appoint the right judges.
Yeah, and follow up with that. I don't know the exact numbers, but I'll bet you that in most elections, the role of the judiciary or the importance of judges was probably issue number 37 in the election for most voters, and it's probably up in the top 5 or 10 now. It has really gone up because of this kind of stuff, and that's great.
And that's something even President Obama has mentioned as he's been dealing with all the issues. Even though he says, I've got a pen and phone, I'm going to make it happen, one of the things he's made very public is that he is going to appoint a number of judges. And so this is the repercussion of the lack of involvement, or the involvement just not thinking biblically, even from Christians, that were just not in the right frame of mind when we voted. But this is kind of the situation we are. And so we got to make sure that we do a good job going forward of continuing to be involved, so we elect the right people so that we can eliminate the judges we have and get those right judges back in.
Do you guys think that because they've pushed so far outside of their constitutional authority, they've become that unpopular and now people want change? And do you think the same thing is happening with the president now, pushing so far outside his constitutional authority that finally people are saying, enough is enough? I mean, we just can't have this kind of leadership in our country. Do you think it'll help make people pay more attention to the Constitution, and when a candidate comes up to run for office, they'll actually ask questions regarding jurisdiction and authority and not just, what are you going to do for me?
Well, I think they're already paying more attention to the Constitution. Otherwise, they wouldn't recognize that 67% of judges don't follow it. So the fact that they use that measurement indicates to me that they're studying the Constitution. Now, whether that makes a difference, we'll see in the next election. If we have low voter turnout and put all the same guys back that we've been putting back, then no, it hasn't permeated anything except the exterior of their cerebral functions, and that's just the outside of your brain. If it actually gets from your brain to your heart to where you're willing to act on it, we'll see if that makes a difference in elections.
Yeah. All right, guys, good stuff. Let's take a quick break. We'll be right back here on WallBuilders Live. It's Good News Friday. Hey friends, Rick Green. You're about to hear from some students at Patriot Academy this last summer from all over the country. I encourage you to visit patriotacademy.com. Right on the homepage there, a video is going to start playing. It's just 60 seconds. You're about to hear the audio from that video, but you're really going to want to watch the video and share it with your friends and family. We are so excited about what God's doing with the next generation.
I have a destiny.
Freedom isn't just for politicians.
It's meant for each of us.
To play a role.
To be significant.
To be significant.
To live with purpose. My life has meaning.
I have a destiny.
Who am I? Does it matter? I was given one life.
If not us, then who?
If not now, when?
Let's change the world.
People say you can't change the world because you're young or inexperienced.
Because you aren't ready.
But I'm training every single day, and I have a voice. I will give this life everything I've got.
Because I am a champion.
We all have one life to give.
I am a patriot, and I have a destiny.
We're training up a generation of champions to change the world. Hope that you will help us and that you'll spread the word and let others know about it. Visit today, patriotacademy.com.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. Thanks for staying with us. It's Good News Friday. We're bringing you good news from across the country. All right, guys, where do you want to go next?
Well, I got another interesting story here. This one deals with fatal car crashes. Now, you remember that back in 2012 in the elections, there were 176 ballot initiatives, and 6 of them involved legalization of marijuana use in some way, recreational form, medical form, etc. And several states adopted recreational marijuana use. This goes to the libertarian argument that legalized drugs, it has no effect. No, the fatality and crashes involving marijuana have tripled since marijuana has become legal. So if you're driving under the influence of alcohol, the risk of a fatal crash is 13 times higher than not under the influence. But if you're driving under the influence of marijuana alcohol, it's 24 times higher.
Wow.
So people who say that, hey, what I do with marijuana is my own business, it affects no one else. No, that's not true. You get behind a car, it has a huge impact. And by the way, it has an impact in a lot of other ways as well. So the libertarian view that drugs affect no one else doesn't hold up medically, it doesn't hold up scientifically, and it definitely doesn't hold up in traffic safety.
Well, it doesn't hold up when you look at the European studies, too. There have been several European nations that have legalized marijuana for a long period of time, and so they have some pretty extensive studies from over in Europe, and the majority of the studies are pretty unanimous that the benefits do not outweigh the negatives. When you start looking at all the things that marijuana produces in the physical body over a long period of time, that the negatives are much higher than
and what it does to the
perceived
culture,
benefit.
because the productivity goes down. There's so
Right.
much stuff that goes down as well.
Unemployment goes up.
That's right.
Which, where we are in our nation, I don't think we need a higher unemployment and more welfare happening, but this is what we see, which is ironic because the libertarians are the ones that make that argument, but they're also the ones that would be seemingly the anti-welfare and we want people work, and that's just not what marijuana produces.
Yeah, that's right. One other piece of tidbit before we get to some other good news. This now, Rick, this is in your ballpark, pun intended. Masahiro Tanaka, who is he?
Let's see. He's a pitcher for. Who does he pitch for? Not the Red Sox.
I like basketball, and I know this one.
Oh, come
Wow,
on. Come
busted.
on, baseball man.
I'm busted. He's not with the Rangers, is he?
No, Tim.
The Yankees.
$155 million man.
Yeah.
Well,
Huge.
that's why I don't know who he is. I pretend the Yankees don't even exist. There's nothing good about the Yankees. Why would you bring the Yankees up on Good News Friday? I'm in a bad mood now.
Well, actually, there is some ironic good news for the Rangers coming.
Oh?
Well, yeah, we'll see. Now, I think he had did he have a 23-0 record in the pros in Japan? I think it was 23-0.
I think that's right.
You know, perfect record. Anyway, he's a dominating pitcher. He signs for the New York Yankees and gets paid $155 million. Now, a lot of other franchises are willing to pay him really high. I don't think he knew what was coming in America when he signed.
Not America, New York.
Oh, that's right, New York.
Which is not necessarily America.
That's right. Of his $155 million that he signed for, he lost $90 million of it to taxes.
Wow.
And had he signed with basically any other team.
The Rangers?
The Rangers.
This is why it's good news for the Rangers. We can recruit him.
That's right.
We have lower tax rates. You need to come play in Texas.
You come play in Texas. And see, when you look at New York's, now, the New York, Texas is, I think, one of 5 states who has no state income tax, right? So in addition to him paying $67 million to the feds for income tax, his New York state income tax was an additional $14 million. And his New York City income tax was an additional $6 million. So the city tax on income, the state taxes income. Yeah, golly, I wonder why jobs aren't growing really fast in New York.
Wow.
I think at some point
I'm just stuck on $90 million in taxes from one person.
From one, but he's not paying his fair share. You know, those rich guys need to pay their fair share. I tell you, that's why Texas has got that 22% growth rate in the last census. Is we don't have that kind of stuff, and you actually work your tail off, and you have a talent and a skill. And if your talent's worth $155 million, you get to keep a whole lot more of it when you come to Texas. And you know, and Mary Fallon, governor of Oklahoma, told me when she got elected, she said, you can tell Governor Perry that we're going to start taking jobs from Texas. We're going to offer people better deals in Texas. And I love that. We need all these states competing to say, hey, we'll take less of your money. You come to our state and live here, you get to keep more of what you earn, and that's the competition you want.
So you mean if it's kind of a free market system where you compete and then the better of the two wins out, that's productive.
I don't think that'll ever work in America. We're not going to go there. No, that. Okay,
as long
there you
as
go.
it means the Rangers get the best ball players, I'm happy. All right, guys, we got to take a quick break. We'll get some more good news in a moment. Stay with us right here on WallBuilders Live.
This is David Barton with another moment from America's history. America has a history of great patriots who loved and sacrificed much for their country. One of these was John Witherspoon, a signer of the Declaration of Independence. While president at Princeton, he personally trained many who became important leaders in American government, including James Madison. How could John Witherspoon tell if someone really loved America? He explained, "He is the best friend to American liberty, who is most sincere and active in promoting true and undefiled religion, and who sets himself with the greatest firmness to bear down profanity and immorality of every kind. Whoever is an avowed enemy of God, I hesitate not to call him an enemy to his country." Founding Father John Witherspoon believed that a true American patriot opposed profanity and immorality and promoted true and undefiled religion.
For more information on God's hand in American history, contact WallBuilders at 1-800-8REBUILD.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Welcome back to WallBuilders Live. Thanks for staying with us here on Good News Friday, and I'm trying to find a way to find a mute button that would officially prevent any good news from the New York Yankees on this program.
Well, the good news is, as long as this word gets out, they're going to be able to recruit a lot less people. Because you'll have a much better shot of Texas getting some. Because we could offer $12 million less, and he'd get a better deal here for $12 million less.
That's true. Yeah. It's going to save us a lot of money because we can offer him only $80 million, and he's making $10 million more.
That's right. I love it. All right, guys. So what's next on our good news list?
Well, this is a new national report that's come out. A new report that shows abortion in America has dropped to its lowest level since Roe versus Wade was passed in 1973, which is absolutely incredible because we've been talking for years about all the progress we have seen in the pro-life movement with so many guys that we've elected legislator, both on state level and national level, with all the laws that have been passed. And now we have seen it where the abortion levels have dropped to the lowest rate we have seen in America since 1973, which is absolutely incredible.
And let me throw something out here. Let's talk about who gets the credit for this. I was with some folks recently in South Carolina, and there's the director of a crisis pregnancy center there in South Carolina, who happens to be a liberal Democrat, and said that we need to thank President Obama for this decrease in abortions because he's the one responsible for having the lowest abortion rate in America since 73.
Well, he did work to make sure that we got more condoms in elementary schools and junior high and high schools.
But we know that where condoms go up and abortions go up. So that didn't work statistically. You got to have better response than that.
Well, I'm just throwing out the irony.
Well,
let's give him credit.
This is someone whose brain is not connected where it should be.
So wait, let me get this right, though. The most pro-abortion president in America's history is responsible for abortion going down, according to this.
Yeah, they are very liberal, and they think that he is responsible for all this. 271 pro-abortion acts that he's done in his presidency, and it's decreased.
Wait, you said 270 pro-abortion acts, not pro-life acts. So
no,
these were laws that made it easier to get an abortion.
That's right. And so what you got to back up to, and let's just do a little quick math here. Over the last 3 years, we had the election of 2010. Those legislators come, they get sworn in 2011. The highest number of pro-life laws ever passed in a single year prior to 2011 had been 35 laws. That next year, or actually 34 laws. The next year, 2011, that was back in, when was that? It's like 96 or something of the sort. So then we come to 2011, and instead of 34 laws, they pass 85 laws. The next year, 2012.
And these are, just to clarify, these are states. This is not the federal. This is not President Barack Obama, for sure.
No, absolutely. He's opposed to this. Then you go to the next year, 2012, and states pass an additional 39 laws. Then you go to last year, 2013, states passed an additional 70 laws. So what you're looking at is basically 150, 160 laws, and that's what's doing this. No, I'm sorry. It was President Obama that was doing all this. I forgot about that. He
must have something to do with those laws while he was a state senator. Oh, no, wait. While he was a state senator, he was killing the pro-life legislation that would have saved even babies that had been born and survived a botched abortion. Now, that's the Barack Obama on abortion.
But what goes back to this argument is we've talked about it before. It's all about controlling the rhetoric and controlling the argument. And so that's exactly what's happening, is it's being turned and twisted, which really, I mean, you think about something like Susan G. Komen, it's interesting, some of the new reports. Actually, I've got a couple in my hand. The bombshell that a study found 44% increased breast cancer risk for women who have had abortions.
Yeah.
So, but Susan G. Komen, hey, we're going to race for the cure, but they support Planned Parenthood.
They support the things that are causing breast cancer.
And interestingly enough,
how many studies was that?
Well, it's a new study that just came out in the last month.
I think that now makes over 40 studies. I think it's over 40 studies.
Right now, what I see is 36 studies.
There you go, 36 studies. 36 studies that I guess they're going to keep looking for studies until they find one, and then they'll say, oh, see, there's no link.
Well, what's interesting is the latest study that's come out, and this is the latest study after the 44% increase for breast cancer for those who've had abortion. it shows that women who have had abortions are 636% more likely to have breast cancer.
Wow.
Than a woman who has not had an abortion.
See, you do the biblically right things, there are good consequences. You do the biblically wrong things like an abortion, and even if you regret it afterwards, there's still consequences.
There is.
And that's massive.
But one of the Good News Friday issues is the fact that this is coming out.
Yes, that's right.
That there's so much more fuel for our campfire than the other side has, where they can try to twist the rhetoric and twist the logic and twist the story. But there are more and more studies coming out going, guys, look, it's just practical common sense where Jesus talked about in Matthew 7. You just measure the fruit. What is it producing? Does it work? And we're now having more and more studies that show abortion, not only do we know it's murder, and that's a very valid argument, but you look at the repercussion it has on the woman's body and in the issue of breast cancer. Now, it's not really debatable anymore when you start seeing all these studies that are coming out, scientific studies, that are showing what abortion produces.
And by the way, before we go to break, Rick, I'm going to throw one more in here.
Go for it.
Our friend, the president of Oklahoma Wesleyan, Everett Piper, great guy. And that is one of the sound universities that we do recommend because they're really good up there. He's got this article that I thought was really good, and it's based on something that Charles Krauthammer said, who's the nationally syndicated columnist. And he points out that, we tend to be losing young people on traditional marriage type stuff. But what Charles pointed out was that what we've seen in America is the younger generation is the most pro-life of any generation since Roe v. Wade. And so the question is, why are they, and they're, on abortion, young folks are super conservative on the abortion views. Why is that? And as he points out, it's because we've had better education on that than we have on the marriage issue. And because of that education, things that Tim's talking about, that's where these kids are becoming conservative. Which the good news is, if we'll start doing that kind of education on marriage, you'll get the same kind of results.
Absolutely.
Because you show the statistical correlations, you show the impact, you show what's happening in those nations in Europe that have same-sex marriage, what's happened to marriage there, what's happened to out-of-wedlock births, how they soar 60%. You show all that, you get those statistics out there, and we'll have the same kind of positive impact for kids. So there's a lot of good news going in the pro-life area right now.
Great stuff, guys. We'll take a quick break. We'll come back and get some more good news here on WallBuilders Live.
Hey guys, this is Tim Barton with WallBuilders, and I know you hear my dad and Rick talk a lot about our founding fathers, about the original intent of our nation, the constitutional heritage that we have, and really we've seen how far we've slipped away from that. And I know a lot of us, as we hear my dad and Rick talk, think, I wish there was a place that I could go and I could see these documents, that I could read and learn about the founding fathers firsthand, see the things they did. And I want to give you some websites today that can help you accomplish that very thing. If you get online, you can go to places like Library of Congress, and you can look under their Century of Lawmaking or historical documents. You can go to the Avalon Project, to the Founders Constitution, to Google Books, or even the Internet Archives, or you can just go to WallBuilders' website. We have a section for our library, and under that section we have different subgroups for historical documents, historical writings, even a place where you can get helpful links to find out more information about other websites where you can do research for yourself and find the truth for yourself. Friends, this is a time that we need to know who we are and where we came from. WallBuilders.com is a great place to go.
Let the torch of freedom burn.
Please don't leave.
Rick, are you still there?
I'm just trying to figure out when the announcement was that Christmas moved to March.
Look, man, it's been several weeks since Christmas. We need a re-injection of this. We need to not forget. And it actually has to do with the fact that I overlooked a story that really went back to just after Christmas, and it's worth a shout out. So we got to do this.
So we get some Christmas good news.
Some Christmas good news from Montana. And it's good news about a superintendent with some backbone. I love this. Up in Montana, they were going to have a community Christmas thing. It's their Peace on Earth community Christmas celebration. And both the ACLU and the Freedom from Religion Foundation threatened to take the Whitefish Public Schools to court if they had that, because it was held at a church. and they say, to have Christmas songs and sing it at a church, that would promote religion. And I'm going to say that in the overwhelming majority of cases, given those two groups coming at you threatening a lawsuit, the fact that it's in a church and the fact that you're singing some religious songs along with the secular songs, most school board attorneys would say, oh, settle quick, get this out of here. We can't do this. But I love what the superintendent did, and it was actually 3 school districts that came together in a joint choir for this. And so here's a statement. Superintendent Darlene Schottel wrote this. She said, quote, one could interpret that by denying district students the opportunity to participate because of the Christian theme of the overall event might be in violation of the second half of the Establishment Clause, quote, prohibiting the free exercise thereof, end quote. Students may opt out of assignments and or activities that might conflict with their belief system to assure the district is not placing them in a situation they might find uncomfortable. So rather than canceling the whole thing, she said, if you're offended, don't participate.
Now, wait, who was she?
She's the superintendent of schools.
A superintendent that even knows there's 2 parts?
Two parts of the First Amendment.
Wow.
And
this
actually,
is progress. Where was this?
This was in Whitefish Public Schools, and she spoke on behalf of the 3 school districts that came together there, Flathead, Glacier, and Whitefish. And so they were singing religious songs and secular songs, but it was at a church. And not only did she know that there were 2 parts of the First Amendment, she actually knew that it was called the Establishment Clause, and she actually quoted it. This is...
I'm impressed,
You
man.
bet, man.
We need to send her speech or article or whatever that was to every school district in the country.
Kudos to Montana, and that's why it's worth mentioning Christmas, even though it's 9 weeks late.
Well, great news, and appreciate you sharing it, folks. We appreciate you listening today. We hope we've given you some good news today and encouraged you. Thanks for listening to WallBuilders Live with David Barton, Tim Barton, and Rick Green.
We stand undivided.